So this is study 6 as we've been going through Esther. We're on to chapter 5, and I want to call this message Another Two Banquets. Another two banquets. The reason I say that is because, of course, Esther started off with two banquets, amazingly. And here we are again with two more banquets. It started off in chapter 1 with Vashti having a banquet over here for all the ladies. That's what the ladies do when they go to the Toby Carvery. They have a Vashti banquet. And over here, all the men got together for 7 days. And, of course, it wasn't a pretty sight, those two parties, because the twain, unfortunately, did meet on the 7th day, and that was when Vashti refused to go in and display herself. Thank you so much, Johnny. Would not go in to display herself to all of Ahasuerus' drunken courtiers, and rightly so. You would say she stood her ground, but through that lost her queenship, if there's such a word. And here we are, several chapters later, coming virtually to the middle of this great story, and another two banquets. I tell you, they like their banquets, don't they? And there is actually a good point here. I don't know if you'll see this in many commentaries, if any at all. Certainly the first chapter is not a good example, but this chapter is an example of this, and I'm sure you'll get this as a train of thought throughout the scriptures. Although I've never took the time to study it in detail. But see, if you want anything done, I'm just saying this by word of introduction. If you want anything done, food is a great helper. You want to get the right people in the right place, round the table, with some food, with some drink, discuss what you need to discuss, and I think that you'll find that the food and drink will grease the wheels of whatever you are discussing to the point where you will get what you need to be organized, sorted. This is seen even in business circles. Certainly in the New Testament church, their Lord's Supper was a full-blown meal. When they came together, and Pastor Harvey came from a brethren background, and he told me about these love feasts that these brethren people used to have, and how beautiful they were. As they shared the scriptures, as they enjoyed their meal, and as they prayed together, all at the same time. Just be careful, when it was your turn to pray, you didn't have your mouth full. You're spitting crumbs over everyone. That wouldn't be terribly good. But yes, it is a lovely combination. But that's something that's really has nothing to do with what I'm going to speak on tonight. But it is just still a fact. And there's a huge irony. Just say this by way of introduction. I can't help but kind of smile to myself with these two banquets, and how they are two banquets, as were the two in the first chapter. But my goodness, there's an extraordinary, several extraordinary differences. For a start, in chapter 1, everyone was invited. Everyone. I reckon it was a party full of thousands of people, and probably hundreds in the ladies' department. So many people. See this banquet? 3 people. Esther, Haman, Ahasuerus. King Ahasuerus. There's 3 people. So there's a difference straight away. Extraordinarily, it was Ahasuerus that wanted Vashti to join his party. Here we have the new queen, Esther, wanting Ahasuerus to join her party. So there's a big switch here in the roles. Remarkable how it can be so different. Of course, it was 7 days long, the one in chapter 1. The first party here was only a day, in fact probably a lot less than a day, just the time for a normal meal, and then the following day another meal and banquet was supplied. So a big difference in time. And then also chapter 1, there's no doubt about it, the men were utterly drunk, beyond drunk probably, whatever that is, blind drunk maybe. Although King Ahasuerus wasn't drunk enough to not be able to call Vashti over. So there was a real sordidness about the one in chapter 1, a real nasty sexual sordidness. But here in chapter 5, there's no hint of this whatsoever. In fact, and this brings me to my first point, I want to look at three things: fasting, timing, and boasting. Fasting, timing, and boasting. In fact, one of the reasons why Esther was so, I'm sure, reticent about going in unto the king was the fact that she hadn't seen or been near the king for 30 days, which is a strange thing, if you ask me. If you have a beautiful young wife in the next room, you'd think you'd want to see her a bit more often than every 30 days, wouldn't you? You think you'd want to see her a lot more regularly than that. And this created a great deal of, I believe, reticence. In fact, you can sense it in verse 11 of chapter 4, towards the end of it. She's reasoning with the messenger who had brought Mordecai's words, and she says this: "But I have not been called to come in unto the king these 30 days." Whatever was on the king's mind was so all-consuming that he'd even forgotten about this most beautiful of women, who was his wife, who was his queen. Within touching distance, his thoughts were obviously so caught up, perhaps with the affairs of the kingdom, who knows what else, but he was maybe not ignoring her, but her turn hadn't arisen for her to go in unto the king, even over over 4 weeks, over 30 days. And of course these 30 days were added to because in her desperation for this situation, Esther called for a fast. Now this fast goes against all common sense. I am quite sure that King Ahasuerus was not looking for a spiritual girl to come walking through those doors. He was looking for his beauty. It was entirely fleshy. And I would imagine that if you want to really look your best, perhaps fasting for 3 days is not going to achieve that. You would think that you would feel very weak after that. You would feel quite faint. You certainly wouldn't be in the sparkling form. Perhaps her having a few showers and a few massages of amazing, beautiful perfume. Perhaps getting her eyes painted and whatever else the ladies do to attract us men. All of these things would have perhaps been the order of the day, but no. Esther uses God's wisdom here, which seems perverse, which seems unlikely, which seems it's not sensible, to then fast for these days, which I think reflects 2 or 3 things here. It reflects Esther's desperation, but also reflects, I believe, a spiritual answer to an enormously difficult situation. We want to reach for the natural, for the common sense approach. But sometimes, often in fact in the Christian life, God can speak to us and give us a spiritual key to unlock a very difficult situation. So this was very unusual. A 3-day fast, and it is something that after 3 days you are going to not feel your best. But here's an extraordinary thing, and the commentators agree with me, so I'm quite pleased about that. But this banquet that was prepared for the king, she was personally involved in preparing it. Says it. A couple of times. Verse 4 of chapter 5. Esther answered, if it seem good unto the king, let the king and Haman come this day unto the banquet that I have prepared for him. Verse 12. This is the next day. Haman said, moreover, yea, Esther the queen did let no man come in with the king unto the banquet that she had prepared. Sorry, that's the evening of the first banquet. After the first banquet, Haman reminisces of the fact Esther was personally involved in the preparation. Now, if you've ever had any experience in fasting, one of the things you don't want to be doing is preparing food. That really does put you off a bit, let me tell you. Because you're thinking to yourself, this food is at your fingertips, you're cooking it, the smell of it, the fragrance, the texture, everything is appealing to you. When you're fasting, unless maybe it's just me, but when you're fasting, you tend to want to stay away from food so that you're able to focus a lot better and do this spiritual this spiritual exercise to the glory of God. And I'm guessing, and I don't think it's a wild guess, that the banquet that Esther prepared for Haman and Xerxes, his Greek name at King Ahasuerus, it was not, I don't think, fish and chips, mushy peas, salt and vinegar, can of iron brew with a couple of pickles. I don't think, and that would be my banquet, of course. Doesn't get much better than that for me. Perhaps brown sauce, I've had that on as well. And now you are talking just about, I would feel like King Ahasuerus. But I'm sure that there'd be an awful lot more to it than going to Pacini's on the Green Hill Square and getting something like that. There's bound to be a great variety. It's bound to be lovely. It's bound to be exotic. It's bound to be variety, the spice of life, they say. It's bound to be, it's like going to Emily's on a Friday night when it's a prayer meeting and there's all sorts of dainties, and then some, and probably there was the starters, then there was the main course, and then it looks like there's a mention of wine, which probably is what they washed it all down with. So she's doing all this and she's fasting, and it would have taken all those days, I believe, that she was fasting to prepare this all. So it really, why would you do that to yourself, the world would say? What would possess you? Of course, Esther saw beyond it all. She saw the situation, and drastic situations call for drastic measures. How important it is that we approach things spiritually and see God working. And this is another amazing thing here, that again, in relation to fasting, there's something very important, very, very important. When you fast, don't tell everyone. There is a real, very pointed instruction that Jesus makes, and see if Esther had been like the Pharisees. She'd have been in big trouble. Listen to this. Moreover, this is Matthew 6 and 16. Moreover, when you fast, be not as the hypocrites of a sad countenance. You can tell Frank the Pharisee is fasting. Just look at his face, Frankie the Pharisee is fasting. Just look at his crabbit features, on his face. He's putting that expression on so that people can feel sorry for him, so that people can see how holy he is. Can you imagine if Esther had done this when she'd gone in to see the king? Listen to this. Moreover, when you fast, be not as the hypocrites of a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces. She had to be in top form to show King Ahasuerus what a beautiful woman she was and is, and how he had to accept her and beckon her forward by the touch of the top of his scepter. She couldn't be a hypocrite, could she? Like these Pharisees, disfigure her face. Imagine, how you doing, darling? Yeah? Big fasting face, you know? He says, excuse me? You're dead meat for a start, because you've come into my presence when I've not commanded you. So we'll just see the back of you, madam, and we'll look for another queen, you know? Because this was life and death. Going in unto the king uninvited was a matter of life and death. Don't be fasting and telling everyone. Don't be disfiguring your face. Don't be showing off. See, spirituality is something deep. It's something within. It's something unseen. Apart from, of course, you have occasions, wonderfully, when such is the blessing in someone's life. It just pours out their face and shine, and they just shine Jesus shine, and they're just wonderful. See, when you've got to tell people you're spiritual, you're not spiritual, you know, you're just not. And amazingly, she went before the king, having fasted these 3 days, and she went in to the king and was accepted. He goes on to say this in Matthew 6 and 16, for they disfigure their faces, that they may appear unto men to fast. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. Oh, but thou, when thou fastest, anoint thine head, wash thy face, that thou appear not unto men to fast, but unto thy Father which is in secret. And thy Father, and this is what I believe God did. You can imagine, this is a commentary of Esther 5. And thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. Here's what I'll do for you, Esther. You're fasting for me, for the situation. I might intervene, says God. I'm going to put such a spiritual beauty on your face that you are irresistible to the king. That you he sees you, just his heart starts bumpty. His heart goes bumping away because he thinks, oh, wow, I've forgotten all about Esther. I've got caught up with all my work and everything. She just come forward and touch the top of my scepter and be welcome, and let me know what is on your mind. You see, this is so important, particularly in the business of prayer. Actually, you had Pharisees who I might have said this to you before, but they felt the walls. That's how they got from A to B. They kept their eyes closed, and they were bruised and bumped around by things that they kept colliding with. Why did they have their eyes closed? Well, evidently it was to stop them being tempted with any shady ladies, you know. You ladies are so tempting to us men that we have to, in this case, these Pharisees had to close their eyes, you know. And of course, they would go careering along the Jerusalem high street, bumping off bins and walking into bus shelters, and they'd do all this, and people would say, oh, how spiritual. How spiritual. Freddie the Pharisee is. There's Frankie and there's Freddie. Here's Freddie. He's spiritual. Look at, he's having to keep his eyes closed in case he sins by beholding one of these devil women, you know. And this, it's a, you no idea what you ladies put us through. You know, how we keep going is amazing. It's incredible. Shut up, David. I know. I can feel it. I can feel it. So you have these people, and they were I think they were the bruised and bleeding, and that's what their nicknames were. You have all these outward manifestations of their spirituality, which actually Jesus just went, oh, blind leaders of the blind. That's what evidently what it is referring to. Blind leaders of the blind. You go around blind so that you're not going to sin in any way, but you're just doing it for show. You're just doing it for show. Just so that others admire you. Nothing to do with me whatsoever. So it's very important when you fast that you do it as unto the Lord, and how important it is that we do fast. And why do I say that? Well, there was this occasion in Jesus' ministry later on in Matthew 17. The lunatic that the disciples were unable to heal. Matthew 17 and verse 14 describes all this. And then you get to the point where the friends or the family of the lunatic approach Jesus and say, well, we've taken this son of ours. Was it son? Let's see, just to make sure. Doesn't say if it was the son or not. A certain man kneeling down. Doesn't actually say whether it was his. Let's say it was his friend of the lunatic, comes along to Jesus and says, these disciples of yours were unable to heal this friend of mine. Are you able to help? And Jesus says this. Jesus rebuked the devil, and he departed out of him, and the child was cured from that very hour. Then came the disciples to Jesus apart and says, why could not we cast him out? And Jesus said, because of your unbelief. For verily I say unto you, if ye have faith as a grain of mustard seed, ye shall say unto this mountain, remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you. Howbeit, this kind goeth not forth, but by prayer and fasting. Prayer and fasting. And there's no doubt that there is a spiritual realm that Christians, largely speaking, are ignorant of, because the great key to unlock it, to enter in through it, is this great spiritual exercise of fasting. How important it is. How important it is that we become great prayers and great fasters, that we might see the supernatural, the impossible made possible. To God be the glory. Do you see how important this is? You see why Esther has defaulted to this. I mean, this is all her idea. Once she realized, when she saw the evidence, when she heard Mordecai, remember he came out with that incredible statement that we looked at a fortnight ago now. It was Chris that was preaching last week. Maybe you've come to the kingdom for such a time as this, and if you like, the planets aligned, and she knew this was the moment. If I perish, I perish. And then she instructs Mordecai, this is what we will do. We will fast. And this fasting had a remarkable effect. So that's the first consideration I want you to consider, is fasting. Let's look at this business of timing. Now, timing is of the essence, as someone has once said. Extraordinarily, and we'll come to this perhaps in more detail next week when we look at chapter 6. But Esther's timing was exquisite. It was absolutely precise. It was amazing. Because the first banquet and the calling of the king to Esther to come forward enabled her to hear these words. And these are remarkable words. So this was just her presenting herself to the king and being accepted. Then said the king unto her, what wilt thou, Queen Esther? And what is thy request? It shall be even given thee to the half of the kingdom. Straight away, she has a verbal door here opening that gives, amazingly, her the opportunity at this time to deal with Haman straight away. I would say that her requesting that Haman be dealt with regards to this awful edict that he'd sent out, that all the Jews be destroyed in the 12th month of the year, was it the 11th month, towards the end of the year. I would say upon that request, that was much less than the half of his kingdom. Now, I did want to ask, what if she had said, this is me just musing, I'll just take half your kingdom, thanks very much, Evidently there's a poetic license being exercised by King Ahasuerus here. Whilst he said that, he didn't really mean it. Because if she had said that, I doubt very much that she would have received it. I think she may well have signed her own death warrant doing that. But here was an opportunity for her straight away to say, deal with this situation for me, King. If you love me, if you love me as your queen, then if you love me as your wife, deal with this situation. But for some reason, and it seems like she's premeditated in this way. She's decided, no, the time's not right. The time isn't right. It's a fascinating thing. This whole book is full of questions, big questions. I can't answer some of them, a lot of them. I can't answer them. Why didn't she at this moment, when she was offered half of Xerxes' kingdom, why didn't she say, well, actually, I don't want that much. I just want that bloke over there put on a gallows, please, some gallows, and dealt with, because this is what he's proposing to do to me and my people. But no, Esther in verse 4 answered, if it seem good unto the king, let the king and Haman come this day unto the banquet that I have prepared for him. And I laughed out. I did a lol, as the youngsters would say. Laughed out loud, because it now gets to the end of this banquet, and you know it's the end evidently because wine is mentioned. I love the king's reaction to this announcement of the first banquet. Make haste, Haman! Come on! There's a party afoot, and we're invited. So let's get going. In verse 5. So the king and Haman came to the banquet that very day that Esther had prepared. Verse 6, and the king said unto Esther at the banquet of wine, so that suggests that reached the end of this party. Well, come on, what is thy petition? Here's the second time I'm asking you. And it shall be granted thee, and what is thy request? Even to the half of the kingdom. Another offer of everything virtually. And it shall be performed. Then Esther, and I love this, because this is just so tantalizing. I mean, put yourself in Ahasuerus' position, put yourself in Haman's position. They're wanting to hear, what's the bottom line here, Esther? Where are you taking this? What do you really, really want? You've come to us, you come to the king, he's accepted you, he's offered you virtually everything. You've invited us instead to this banquet. So when are we going to find out what the punchline is? Even to the half of the kingdom, it shall be performed. Now look at the way she strings this out, and you can just imagine them. And go on, yeah. Look, verse 7. Then Esther answered and said, my petition and my request is, go on, Esther, we're listening. If I have found favor, okay, right, get to the point. In the sight of the king, all right, yeah, carry on. And if it please the king, all right, yeah, we've got that bit. When are you going to grant my petition? Oh, please, get on with it, you know. And to perform my request, let the king and the Haman come to another banquet. You just imagine they're thinking, when is she going to spill the beans, you know? When is she going to say? Timing. So important. And you'll see this. How did she know? Well, she never knew. She was just being moved here, I believe, by the sovereign hand of God. In herself, in her intelligence, her intellectual ability, she was on what you might call a wing and a prayer. She was just going as her heart led. She had fasted. She got into the groove spiritually, as it were, and here she was just pursuing a line that she felt was best. But really, at the end of the day, she was just hoping and praying and believing. And amazingly, they get to this point where, I mean, you know what I think she's doing here? And I think it's a bit of feminine genius here. She's tantalizing them. She's almost driving them crazy here. Well, what is she wanting all this for? You know, where is this all going? And she's building up an atmosphere here of tension and anticipation. What's she going to come out with? And we're going to have to wait until the next day. It's like getting to the end of I don't know if you've ever watched these black and white Flash Gordon movies, and Flash Gordon's just died. Or he just looks like he's died. It looks impossible. He's going to get out of it, and you're thinking, he's dead, he's finished. And then it all goes, the end. Da, 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 and then you have to wait until the next day to get the next part. Well, you don't now because we've got YouTube. You can go straight on to the next part. But used to be you had to wait for a little while to find out what happened next. Well, this is it. This is the original cliffhanger. This one, they all have to wait again. The timing is so important, and our preparation, our hearts being willing to be patient, to wait for that moment. It's not easy. Oh, Joseph had these experiences in his ministry. Joseph had these experiences when it seemed that he advanced, then he was set back dreadfully. Then he advanced, then he was plunged down a pit, or he was stuck in a prison, or he was falsely accused, and then he was set back again, and then he was forgotten. But then he advanced, and amazingly God in the end, just because he kept his patience, he kept his counsel, he kept holding on. Hallelujah. And you see this with many of God's men. What age did Moses start his major ministry? 80 years old. 80 years old. First 40 years in Egypt, next 40 years shepherding the flock for his father-in-law for a long time, and then finally was thrust into his public ministry, leading God's people out of Egypt when he was 80. He had to be patient. We sometimes have to be taught that, don't we? And here Esther is showing extraordinary, the godly timing of this. It had to be precise. And you get this reading in the creation of the world. The world is set on an axis that's absolutely precise. It's set on a timing of all its seasons, of all its distance between here and the sun, and so many other measurements that are absolutely precise. And they can't be adjusted either way. Because if the timing was slightly out, we'd all be finished. There wouldn't even be a world. God is a God of timing, of exactness. He knows the very day, the very hour, the very minute that we will leave this scene of time. He knows when we'll be born. There's a time to be born. There's a time to die. It's exact, you see. And this business of timing here is so important. And to not rush into things. So easy for her, just at that first offer of the half of that's all I need. But that most likely could have ended in disaster. It was the suspense that she was building up here that I believe was very crucial to the plan, her plan bearing fruition. But let's look at this business of boasting. Verse 9, very quickly, very briefly. Then went Haman forth that day, joyful. As you can imagine, he feels just everything in the world is going my way, and with a glad heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, that he stood not up, nor moved for him, he was full of indignation against Mordecai. Here's a very, very, very important principle. And this is maybe not directly related to boasting, but it's certainly alongside it. Never, and this is what Haman caused in his own heart. Never let the demise of someone dictate whether you are sad or happy. Never let that happen. Never let the demise of someone else dictate whether you are sad or happy. Your feelings should, and this is not an easy thing that I speak of, but it's a very, very spiritual and blessed thing. Your feelings should be directly connected with the way God feels about something. with the way God is about the matter in hand. And this is so important, this. He goes on to boast about all the things that are going for him. And when you consider this list, as he boasts his way through them all, that all of this is consumed, all of this blessedness in his eyes is consumed, is dispelled, because Mordecai won't move for him. Because Mordecai won't move for him. What's he had that's extraordinary? He calls for his friends and Zeresh's wife. By the way, do not surround yourself with friends and family who allow you to boast. Right? You get a wife like mine, young man. She won't let me boast. She'll soon chop me down to size. She'll soon knock that out of me. You get friends and family around you who will keep your feet on the ground. Part of Haman's problem here is he's got people who are adding fuel to the fire, who are not telling him the truth, who are just telling him what he wants to hear. But Haman I don't get this. He tells his wife about the multitude of his children. You'd think she would know that, wouldn't you? I mean, she's bore them after all. I mean, what's this all about? Haman told them of the glory of his riches and the multitude of his children. She'd be sitting there thinking, as if I don't know. And all the things wherein the king had promoted him. So he's got riches, he's promoted, he's got all these children, he's been advanced above all princes and servants, and moreover, on top of all that, Esther the queen personally invited me to a banquet she prepared herself. That's incredible, isn't it? Amazing. But all of that, says Haman, profits me. You see how futile boasting in things of this earth is. See how futile this world is. Do you see how pointless it is? How utterly pointless. He's doing absolutely everything here. Everything is going his way, yet none of it satisfies him. None of it. He's demented. Verse 13, yet all this avails me nothing, so long as I see Mordecai, the Jew, sitting at the king's gate. Now it was already agreed, this edict that had been sent out, that the destruction of the Jews would take place several months hence, on a certain day of that month. That would happen. The king had confirmed it. That day was set in stone. They'd even thrown lots, and that was what the lot came up with. That was what the sovereignty of God overruling luck and chance had come up with. But here, he's so demented that Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends say unto him, let a gallows be made of 50 cubits high. It's about 75 feet, so I'm told. And tomorrow speak thou unto the king that Mordecai may be hanged thereon, and go thou in merrily with the king unto the banquet. And the thing pleased Haman, and he caused the gallows to be made. There's such a fool here at work in the heart of Haman. If you want to ever read through the book of Proverbs, you'll find numerous references to the fool. And if you want a personification of a fool, look no further than Haman. I mean, I'll just pick out a few verses in Proverbs that will demonstrate this to you. This is Proverbs 12 and 15. The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but he that hearkeneth unto counsel is wise. A fool's wrath is presently known, but a prudent man covereth shame. A fool's wrath is presently known. He that speaketh truth showeth forth righteousness, but a false witness deceit. So you can see quite clearly the personality, the character that is Haman. Elsewhere in Proverbs 19 and 1, better is the poor that walketh in his integrity, there's Mordecai, than he that is perverse in his lips and is a fool. There is Haman. So very, very clearly indeed. Let me give you these verses. This is Proverbs 27:1. Boast not thyself of tomorrow. Don't be showing off about tomorrow, for thou knowest not what a day may bring forth. Let another man praise thee. That's good advice, isn't it? You be praising yourself. Don't you be boasting about yourself. I don't think it's in the Bible. Self-praise bears no honor. So true. So true. There's no honor in praising yourself. If people don't praise you, then just keep quiet. Keep quiet. And even if they do praise you, then walk away from it, because it'll get to you. As old Christmas Evans once said, sounds a bit harsh actually. Someone came up to him, what a name though, Christmas Evans, quite a name, isn't it? But anyway, he was a great preacher of centuries ago. Lady said to him, what a wonderful sermon. Wow, what fantastic, how wonderful, how brilliant you were. And he said, yeah, the devil told me that as well. So it's he didn't really accept her. Don't let that discourage you from encouraging the preacher, by the way, because we need lots of encouragement, an awful lot of encouragement. I'm not going to say that to you, but maybe he discerned her. Maybe she was after something. Let another man praise thee, and not thine own mouth, a stranger, and not thine own lips. A stone is heavy, and the sand weighty, but a fool's wrath is heavier than them both. And this great thought, that verse in Proverbs 27:1, is the one that James quotes in chapter 4. What does he say here? Go to now, ye that say, today or tomorrow we go into such and such a city, and continue there a year, buy and sell and get gain. Whereas ye know not what shall happen on the morrow. Never mind a year to come. You don't even know what's going to happen on Wednesday. Oh dear, maybe we need to be careful. We're trying to make all sorts of arrangements for this wedding of our sons in July. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And we're thinking about, we'll go down here and we'll go down there. That's why it's so important that you say, if it is God's will, we shall live and do this or that. But now ye rejoice in your boastings, all such rejoicing is evil. And that's all to be found in James chapter 4, verses 14, 15, 16 and 17. Avoid boasting, and we'll see next week the extraordinary turn of events that overtakes Haman. We'll get that in chapter 6, or the beginnings of it in chapter 6. But let me just say this just in closing. Isn't it wonderful? Esther went in, I believe, heart in her mouth, terrified as she went in to see the king. Would she be consumed? Would she be ruined? Would her life be snatched away from her? Would she be rejected? Isn't it wonderful as a Christian? We know, because we've been cleansed by the precious blood of Jesus, when we come to prayer and to approaching the throne of grace, no such rejection for us. We're not going to be rejected, because we are God's sons, hallelujah, God's daughters, allowed into his presence. How important it is we learn this great art of fasting and praying, of course, as well. How important it is we discover the art of timing and to reject boasting. And I believe all of these things can be known and experienced through getting into God's presence as much as possible, through being accepted in the beloved, and knowing that beautiful rejoicing, that lovely peace past all our understanding, that joy unspeakable, a path of joy that leads to life. Amen and amen.